Nova West had always believed in vows. The wedding bands, the whispered promises under the altar lights, the years of compromise and sacrifice, she clung to them like lifelines. They meant something. At least they had to. But tonight, her husband shattered that belief with one careless sentence. "I think we should try an open relationship," Chase said, sitting across from her at their mahogany dining table, as if he was suggesting a new restaurant, instead of tearing her marriage apart. His eyes didn't flicker with guilt, not even hesitation. Nova's fork clattered against her plate. Her chest felt tight, her breath caught between disbelief and rage. An open relationship? Chase leaned back, swirling his glass of wine like this was nothing more than a civilized debate. "Don't look at me like that, Nova. We've been married 6 years. Things are stale. This could be good for us." "Good for us." Her laugh was sharp, humorless. "By good, you mean good for you. Let me guess, there's already someone else." His silence was her answer. In that moment, the walls of their home, once warm, once filled with her love, suffocated her. She couldn't sit there and watch him unravel everything she had fought for. She grabbed her keys and walked out, ignoring his half-hearted protests. Her heels clicked against the driveway like gunshots, each step fueled by betrayal. Nova drove without a destination, her hands tight on the steering wheel. Vision blurred by tears she refused to let fall. She should have gone to a friend, maybe. To her mother. Somewhere appropriate. Somewhere safe. Instead, her car stopped in front of the one place she shouldn't be. The West Empire. The glowing neon sign pulsed against the night sky, bold and shameless. Her brother-in-law's notorious strip club. Roman West's kingdom of Sin. Romang, Chase's estranged brother. The family's black sheep. The man Nova had seen only in passing during awkward family gatherings, sharp eyes, easy smirk, radiating trouble. He was everything Chase despised, which should have been enough to keep her away. But tonight she didn't want safe. She wanted to stop feeling like she was drowning. Inside, the club swallowed her in its haze. Music pounded, bodies moved under dim lights, and laughter mixed with low moans of pleasure and desire. Nova's hands trembled as she made her way to the bar, desperate for a drink to burn away the taste of betrayal. The bartender glanced at her, surprised. She knew she didn't belong here. Her designer dress and wedding band screamed of the world outside. But before she could order, she felt it. The weight of a gaze. Slowly, she turned. Roman West stood across the bar, leaning casually with a glass in his hand, watching her like a predator amused by prey that had wandered willingly into his cage. He was different from the last time she'd seen him. Sharper. Tattoos inked his skin, disappearing beneath the collar of his black shirt. His dark hair was a little longer, his jaw dusted with stubble that made him look both dangerous and irresistible. And those eyes. Piercing, knowing, seen wrapped in a human body. Well, Romang said, his voice a low drawl that slid over her skin like silk. "If it isn't my brother's wife." Nova's breath caught. "Romang." He smirked, stepping closer, his gaze dragging deliberately from her trembling hands to the faint flush in her cheeks. "Of all the places in this city, you end up in my club. I should be offended." She looked away, ashamed of the way her pulse raced under his stare. "I just needed somewhere to think." Romang tilted his head, amused. "Sweetheart, this is the last place you'll find peace." His voice lowered, intimate and taunting. "Especially with me standing in front of you." Her heart pounded. She knew she should leave, that walking into his world was stepping into fire. But instead, Her lips betrayed her. Maybe I don't want peace tonight. Romang's smile turned wicked, as if he'd been waiting years for her to say exactly that. He leaned in close, his breath brushing her ear, his words a promise and a warning all at once. Careful, Nova. Once you start down this path, I won't let you go. Not this time. And though every rational part of her screamed to walk away, Nova realized the truth. For the first time in 6 years, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel unwanted. She felt seen. And Romang West was staring at her like she was the only woman in the room. Romang's words lingered in Nova's chest long after he spoke them. Once you start down this path, I won't let you go. Her body betrayed her, every nerve drawn to him like gravity. It was wrong. He was Chase's brother, the man her husband despised, the family scandal she promised herself she'd never get tangled with. But tonight, she was already standing on the edge of a cliff. And Romang was the fool. Drink? Romang asked, motioning to the bartender without waiting for her reply. His voice was casual, but his eyes never left her face, sharp and knowing. The glass slid toward her across the polished counter, amber liquid catching the neon glow. Nova hesitated, staring at the drink like it was poison. Maybe it was. Roman arched a brow. Relax, sweetheart. I don't spike drinks. I prefer women to know exactly what they're getting into with me. Heat flushed her cheeks and she hated how easily he disarmed her with words. She took a cautious sip, the whiskey burning her throat, grounding her in the chaos swirling inside. You shouldn't be here, Romang said finally, his gaze steady. Not in my club. Not in my space. Not looking at me the way you are right now. Nova swallowed hard. And how am I looking at you? His lips curved into a smirk, dangerous and certain. Like you want to make a mistake. Her heart stuttered. Because he wasn't wrong. The music pulsed through the room, dancers twisting on stages while men cheered. But Nova felt none of it. All she could focus on was Roman, his presence, his heat, the way he leaned in close enough that his cologne mixed with the whiskey in her glass. You're married to my brother, he murmured, his tone mocking but softer than she expected. You think he'd appreciate you sitting here with me, dressed like that, eyes full of fire? She bristled, anger cutting through the haze. My marriage is none of your business. Roman chuckled, low and rough. Oh, sweetheart, when you walk into my club with a ring on your finger and pain in your eyes, it becomes my business. He tipped his glass toward her. Besides, you wouldn't be here if everything was fine at home. Nova's breath caught. She hated how easily he read her, how quickly he saw the cracks she'd tried to hide. She set the glass down with a sharp clink. I should go. But her body didn't move. Romang leaned closer, his lips just a breath from her ear. His words. Sinful. You say that, but your legs haven't carried you out the door yet. Her pulse raced, and she hated him for it. Hated how much she wanted to close the space between them, to drown in the danger he offered. Romang pulled back just enough to meet her eyes, the shadows making his stare darker, hungrier. Tell me to stop, Nova. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll walk away. The challenge in his tone was unbearable, tempting and taunting all at once. She opened her mouth, ready to say the words, I don't want this, but nothing came out. Romang's smirk deepened, slow and knowing. He brushed his fingers lightly over her hand on the bar, and the simple touch sent a bolt of heat up her arm. You're trembling, he said softly. And it's not fear, it's want. She yanked her hand back, breath uneven. You're impossible. And you, he replied smoothly, are starving for something Chase hasn't given you in a long time. His voice dropped, low and intimate. Attention, desire. A man who actually sees you. Her throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, but the truth burned too hot. Before she could respond, a commotion broke out near the entrance. Two drunk men arguing, shoving each other, until the bouncers intervened. Nova jumped at the noise, but Roman didn't even flinch. He only shifted closer, shielding her without thought, his hand brushing against the small of her back as he guided her subtly out of the way. The protective gesture, so small and instinctive, unraveled her more than the whiskey or the smirk ever could. Her voice was barely a whisper. "This is wrong." Roman tilted his head, his lips a hair's breadth from hers. "Maybe, but it feels right, doesn't it?" Nova's heart pounded in her chest, loud enough she swore he could hear it. She should leave, she knew that. Every fiber of morality screamed at her to walk away. But her feet betrayed her, rooted. In place, trapped in the magnetic pull between them. Then Roman did something dangerous. He touched her chin with 2 fingers, tilting her face up until her eyes locked with his. "Tell me no," he whispered. Her lips parted, but no sound came. "Out." Roman's smile was slow, triumphant. "That's what I thought." The tension between them snapped like a wire pulled too tight. He leaned in, brushing his mouth against hers in a kiss that was nothing like Chase's. This wasn't practiced or gentle. It was hungry, claiming, as if Roman had been waiting years for this moment. Nova gasped against him, heat flooding through her, every rational thought dissolving. Her hands fisted in his shirt before she realized what she was doing, pulling him closer when she should be pushing him away. The kiss deepened, and she was lost. When they finally broke apart, her lips swollen, breath ragged, Roman's gaze burned into her like a vow. "You think this is a mistake," he murmured. "But Nova, it's the best one you'll ever make." Her stomach twisted with guilt, fear, and something far more dangerous, desire. Because as wrong as it was, she knew. She wasn't walking away. Not tonight. Nova couldn't breathe. Her back was still pressed against the bar, her lips tingling with the memory of Roman's kiss. The taste of him smoke, whiskey, danger lingered, and she hated herself for wanting more. This wasn't supposed to happen. She'd only come here to numb the ache Chase had carved into her chest. To drink until the betrayal faded. To sit somewhere anonymous where no one would look at her like she was broken. But Roman wasn't anonymous. Roman was forbiddance. "Nova," his voice was low, coaxing, like he could read her turmoil. "Say the word and I'll take you upstairs right now." Her body betrayed her with a shiver, but her mind screamed no. She pushed against his chest, her palms flattening against the hard muscle beneath his shirt. "I can't," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm married." Roman didn't move back. His gaze stayed locked on hers, dark and unrelenting. "Married to a man who doesn't want you. Don't forget that." Her heart twisted, his words slicing too close to the truth. She shoved harder, this time breaking free, stumbling a step back as if distance could erase what just happened. "This was a mistake," she said, though even she didn't sound convinced. Roman tilted his head, studying her, his expression unreadable. Then slowly a dangerous smile curved his lips. "Funny thing about mistakes, sweetheart." He lifted his glass, finishing the last of his whiskey. "They're the only things worth remembering." Nova's pulse raced, but she turned away, desperate to escape. She grabbed her purse, forcing her legs to carry her toward the exit, away. From the neon haze, the pounding music, the man who looked at her like she was already his dot, the cool night air hit her lungs like ice. She leaned against her car, hands trembling as she tried to catch her breath. What have I done? It was only a kiss. But it was the kind of kiss that unraveled marriages, The kind that left marks no one else could see. Her phone buzzed in her purse, and for one reckless second she prayed it was Roman before remembering. That wasn't possible. She pulled it out. Her stomach sinking. Chase. The message was simple. Where are you? Her thumb hovered over the screen, but she didn't reply. What could she possibly say? That she'd gone to his brother's club? That his betrayal had driven her straight into Romain's arms? Nova shoved the phone back into her bag, slid into the driver's seat, and drove home in silence. But sleep never came. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt Romain's hands on her, his mouth claiming hers, his voice echoing like a curse. Tell me no. By morning, the guilt was unbearable. She avoided Chase, barely acknowledging him as he sipped coffee and scrolled through his phone like nothing had changed. Maybe for him nothing had. But for Nova, the world had cracked open. She told herself she wouldn't see Romain again. That one mistake was enough. But Romain had other plans. 2 days later, she found him waiting. It was late, past 9, when Nova stopped by the grocery store on her way home from work. She pushed her cart down the aisles in a daze, tossing items she didn't even need inside. And then she felt it, the weight of a stare. She turned, and there he was, Romain, leaning casually against the end cap, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on her like she was the only person in the building. Her breath caught. What are you doing here? Shopping. His smirk was lazy, wicked. Or maybe fate's just making sure you don't forget me so easily. She glared, though her pulse betrayed her. I told you, that night was a mistake. Romain stepped closer, his voice dropping low so only she could hear. Funny, I don't remember you stopping me, in fact. He leaned in, his lips grazing her ear. I remember you pulling me closer. Nova's cheeks flamed, memories flooding back. She forced herself to step back, creating space between. I can't do this. I won't. Romain studied her, his jaw tightening for the first time since she'd known him. You keep saying that, sweetheart. But your eyes tell me otherwise. He reached into her cart, plucking out a carton of strawberries, his fingers brushing hers just long enough to spark heat. See you around. And then he was gone, leaving her trembling in the middle of the aisle, breathless and undone. That night, Nova lay awake in bed beside Chase, staring at the ceiling while her husband snored softly. She should feel disgusted with herself, ashamed of the way Romain haunted her thoughts. But when she closed her eyes, it wasn't Chase she dreamed of. It was Romain, his mouth, his hands, his voice promising things she was terrified she wanted. And the worst part? She knew this was only the beginning. Asterisk. The silence at the breakfast table was suffocating. Chase scrolled through his phone, his thumb moving lazily while his coffee steamed untouched. Nova pushed eggs around her plate, waiting for him to look at her, to notice the shadows under her eyes, to ask her if she was okay. He didn't. Finally, she spoke. You didn't come home last night until almost midnight. Chase didn't even glance up. Work ran late. Nova's chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, but the cologne clinging to his shirt wasn't the one he wore. And she wasn't naive enough anymore to pretend she didn't know what work really meant. Chase, her voice cracked, desperate. Do you even want to be here anymore? His eyes flicked up at her for the briefest moment, irritation flashing before he returned to his screen. You're being dramatic, Nova. I told you, this open thing could save us. You're just too stubborn to see it. Her stomach turned. Save them? He was already gone, slipping into other beds, while she sat here choking on loneliness. Nova set her fork down. her appetite gone. She rose from the table, her voice quiet but firm. I didn't think you want saving at all. Chase didn't answer. He didn't even look at her as she left. That evening, Nova found herself wandering the city streets, the ache in her chest refusing to fade. She told herself she just needed air, space, time to think. But when she looked up, her breath caught. It was again, the West Empire. She froze on the sidewalk, heart hammering. She shouldn't go inside. Not after last time. Not after that kiss that still burned her lips. But before she could turn away, a familiar voice cut through the night. Couldn't stay away, could you? Her pulse jumped. Romang leaned against the doorway, as if he'd been waiting for her. All along. His black shirt clung to his frame, sleeves rolled to his elbows, tattoos visible under the neon glow. His smirk was lazy, but his eyes, those sharp, merciless eyes, studied her with dangerous intensity. I wasn't, Nova started, but the lie caught in her throat. She clenched her purse strap, trying to steady her voice. I was just passing by. Romang pushed off the wall, stepping closer until she had to tilt her head to look up at him. Sure you were. His voice was low, teasing. And I'm a saint. Nova's heart raced. You think everything is a joke, don't you? Not everything. He paused, his gaze flicking briefly to her mouth before locking back on her eyes. Not you. The sincerity in his tone caught her off guard, knocking the air from her lungs. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the city noise fading into the background until it was just the two of them, standing on the edge of something neither could walk away from. Romang. She whispered his name like a plea, though. She wasn't sure if she was begging him to stop or begging him not to. He tilted his head, studying her. Tell me one thing, sweetheart. When you're lying in bed at night next to him, is it me you think about? Her lips parted, but she couldn't answer, because the truth was written all over her face. Romang's smile was slow, dangerous. Thought so. She took a shaky step back, but he followed, his voice soft, coaxing. You can fight it all you want, Nova. Pretend you don't feel it. But I know you do. I saw it that night. Hell, I felt it. Her chest heaved. It was just a kiss. Romang chuckled, the sound dark and sinful. Sweetheart, there's no such thing as just when it comes to us. Before she could reply, the door to the club opened and two men stumbled out laughing, breaking the tension. Nova startled, realizing how close Romang had gotten, how dangerously near she was to forgetting herself entirely. She swallowed hard, stepping away, putting space between them. I should go. Romang didn't stop her. He simply leaned back against the wall, watching her retreat with a look that promised this wasn't over. And deep down, Nova knew he was right. Back home, Chase was already gone again. No note, no explanation. Just silence and the faint scent of a woman's perfume lingering in their bedroom like a ghost. Nova sank onto the edge of the bed, burying her face in her hands. She wanted to scream, to cry, to beg the universe to take her back 6 years and let her make a different choice. But when she closed her eyes, it wasn't her husband she saw. It was Romang. His smirk, his voice, his vow. There's no such thing as just when it comes to us. In the terrifying part, she was starting to believe him. I should have known better than to come here again. The low thrum of bass reverberated through Romang's club, the kind of sound that made your heartbeat stumble until you fell in step with it. I didn't belong here. I kept finding myself walking through these doors. Maybe it was because here no one looked at me with pity. Maybe it was because here I didn't have to be Mrs. Chase West. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because of him. The moment my eyes found him across the crowded floor, My lungs betrayed me. Romang was leaned back at the bar, talking with one of his managers, a glass in hand, his expression sharp and unreadable. He looked like he owned more than the building, he owned the night itself. And when his gaze flicked to me, it was like the rest of the room bled away. My pulse skipped. My fingers curled into fists. I should have turned, but my feet betrayed me, carrying me forward until the distance between us was nothing but the thickness of the air. I told myself she wouldn't come back. That maybe the tension I'd seen in her eyes last time was enough to scare her away for good. But here she was standing in my club again, dressed like temptation, walked in on high heels. Every inch of her screaming that she didn't belong yet. I wanted her here anyway. Chase's wife. My brother's wife. I should have looked away, but my eyes dragged over her with a hunger I didn't bother hiding anymore. She was fragile and furious all at once, and the thought of Chase tossing her aside for scraps of freedom made my blood boil. She belonged to a man who didn't deserve her, and every instinct in me wanted to claim what he didn't even bother to hold. Romang, I breathed, stopping a step too close. His name burned my tongue, heavier than it should have been. He tilted his head, eyes glinting like he knew every secret I tried to bury. Nova, he drawled, slow and deliberate. Back again? You planning to make a habit of this? Heat crawled up my neck. I needed space. From Chase? He asked, his voice sharper than the rim of his glass. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He read me too easily. His gaze roamed over me, not with the detached leer of strangers, but like a man cataloguing what already belonged to him. It made my knees weak, and I hated that it did. She thought she was hiding it. The way her breath quickened, the way her fingers twisted against the hem of her blouse, the way her eyes darted anywhere but at me, until finally they gave in, locking with mine. I wanted to touch her. God help me. I wanted to press her against the bar and erase every trace of my brother from her memory. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I leaned down, so close her perfume cut through the burn of whiskey. So close. I could feel the tremor of her breath. You keep showing up here, Nova, I said quietly, my voice low enough for her alone. You keep coming to me when he sends you away. Do you know what that tells me? Her lips parted, unsteady. Romang, that maybe you're looking for something you're not ready to admit. My stomach knotted. I should have pulled back. I should have walked away. Instead, I stayed, caught in the gravity of him, my pulse racing like I was already caught doing something wrong. His words slid under my skin, dangerous and addicting. Romang, we can't. Can't? His mouth twisted into a half-smile, sharp and knowing. Or won't. The difference between the two lived in the space between us. And in that moment, it felt like the space was shrinking, collapsing until the only thing I could hear was his voice. The only thing I could feel was the heat rolling off him. I hated him for being right. I hated myself more for wanting him to be. She thought she was resisting. She wasn't. She was burning, and I was done pretending I couldn't feel the flames. I set my glass down, every muscle coiled tight with restraint. One more inch, one more second, and I'd close the distance. But I didn't not to might dot instead. I let my voice drop into the space between us like a promise. One of these nights, Nova, you're not going to run. And when that happens, I let my eyes roam deliberately, ending on her lips. I won't let you go. Her breath hitched. Her body swayed, just barely, like she almost leaned into me before she caught herself. And then she fled, leaving me standing there with a hunger that wasn't going away. Asterisk, the club was quiet. Too quiet. The music had died hours ago. The bartenders long gone, leaving only dim lights casting shadows across leather booths and polished steel. I should have left. I told myself I would, but my body didn't move toward the door. My fingers traced the edge of a glass I hadn't touched. I felt him before I saw him. Still here. Romang's voice was low, edged in something that always made my pulse misstep. I turned. He stood against the doorway, broad shoulders outlined by the glow of the exit sign. Arms crossed, eyes fixed on me with that look that made it impossible to breathe. He wasn't Chase. He wasn't safe. You shouldn't be here, he said. But the way he said it sounded like he wanted the opposite. I swallowed. Neither should you. His mouth curved, half smirk, half danger, and he walked closer. That silence pressed in with every step. My chest tightened. I hated how my body reacted before my brain caught up. Heat, nerves, that ache of awareness. She looked like sin wrapped in hesitation, sitting there with her hands trembling but her chin lifted like she could still pretend she wasn't breaking apart. Nova had no idea what she did to me. 6 years I had bitten my tongue, kept distance, respected lines that were never mine to touch. But tonight, she looked like she wanted someone to tear them apart. I stopped in front of her, close enough to catch the scent of her perfume soft maddening. She tilted her head, defiance and desperation clashing in her eyes. You keep looking at me like that, I muttered, and I'll forget you're my brother's wife. Nova's povey, the words punched the air from my lungs. My grip tightened, on the glass, then loosened, because I couldn't hide how my pulse thundered. His gaze burned through me, stripping excuses I didn't even have yet. Romang. He caught my wrist when I tried to stand. Not rough, not soft, just enough. Enough to still me. My breath faltered, and the room shrank until it was only him. You should let me go, I whispered. His thumb brushed over my pulse, slow, deliberate. You don't want me to. And God help me, he was right. The moment snapped. His mouth was on mine. Not careful, not sweet hungry, claiming, desperate. My back hit the wall before I realized he'd moved us. His hand pinned mine above my head, his body caging me in. The kiss was fire, messy and fierce, stealing every ounce of air. I gasped against him, nails clawing into his shirt. It wasn't a kiss anymore. It was everything we weren't supposed to do but couldn't stop. His mouth trailed down my jaw, to my throat, each graze of teeth pulling a sound I'd never made for anyone. She wasn't pushing me away. She was pulling me closer, wrecking years of restraint with every shaky breath. I wanted to tear her open, taste every inch, ruin her for him. But even in the blur of heat, I knew I couldn't take it all, not yet. Not yet. I pressed my forehead to hers, breath ragged. You feel that? I ground out, holding her hips tight against mine. That's mine, you're mine. Her eyes widened, torn between fear and something darker. She should have walked out. She didn't. I could still feel the heat of his kiss searing my lips. I should have stopped. I should have screamed. But all I could do was stand there trembling, knowing the line was broken and nothing could fix it. And when his mouth brushed mine again, softer this time, I knew the worst part. I wasn't going to let him go. Nova's breath caught the second his mouth claimed hers. There was no space left for hesitation. Roman wasn't asking anymore. He was taking, and she was letting him. Her back hit the wall, his hand fisting in her hair, as though he'd been starving for this moment, for her. Say it, Nova. He growled against her lips, his voice low, dark, and laced with need. Tell me you want this. Her fingers dug into his shoulders, her body already betraying every denial her heart tried to conjure. The weight of 6 years of loneliness, of being unseen, of being unwanted by Chase. all of it burned away in Romang's arms. "I want this," she whispered, breathless. "I want you." That was all it took. His restraint snapped. His mouth devoured hers, hot and desperate. His hands roaming with an urgency that sent sparks racing under her skin. Every brush of his lips, every demanding touch, every growl rumbling from his chest was a promise one she knew she should fear, but couldn't resist. When his lips dragged down her neck, when her soft moan broke the silence of the room, Nova realized there was no going back. Romang lifted her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around his waist, and carried her toward the bedroom. His eyes burned into hers, not just hungry, but resolute, like a man claiming something he'd been denied too long. "You're mine now," he said, voice rough, absolute. Not his, not anymore. And when he laid her down, when the world outside them vanished into shadows and heat, Nova let herself drown in him. The line was crossed. There was no turning back. Nova woke with sunlight filtering through the curtains, her body wrapped in warmth that wasn't her own. For a second, she thought she was dreaming until the steady rhythm of Romang's breathing reached her ears. Her eyes flew open. Romang's arm was slung heavy over her waist, his bare chest pressed against her back, his scent surrounding her. Last night came rushing back in a dizzying blur, his mouth, his hands, the fire that had devoured her until she couldn't think of anything but him. Her heart hammered. Oh, gods, she had crossed the line. Carefully she tried to slip away, but Romang stirred. His grip tightened, pulling her back flush against him. His voice was rough with sleep, yet commanding. "Don't." Nova froze. His lips brushed her temple. "Don't run from me, Nova. Not after last night." Her throat closed. "Romang, we shouldn't." His voice cut through her whisper, sharper now, awake. He rolled her gently onto her back, so she had no choice but to face him. His storm-grey eyes searched hers, fierce and unyielding. "Don't you dare call what happened a mistake." Tears pricked her eyes, the weight of reality crushing down on her. "I betrayed my vows. I betrayed myself." Romang's jaw clenched. He reached up, brushing her cheek with the back of his hand, softer than his words. "No, you gave yourself to the wrong man years ago. Chase never saw you. He never valued you." Last night, his thumb traced her swollen lips, his eyes burning into hers. "Last night was the first time you let yourself be wanted the way you deserve." Her chest ached. "And now what? You think this, us, can exist in the light of day?" Romang leaned closer, his voice dropping to a vow. "I don't think, Nova, I know. I've waited too long, fought too hard, to let you slip back into his shadow. If you run, I'll come after you. If you hide, I'll find you. I'm not Chase. I won't let you go." Nova's breath shook. His words terrified her, but they also lit something dangerous inside her hope. For the first time, she wasn't just a forgotten wife, a ghost in her own home. She was wanted, chosen, but as Romang kissed her forehead and held her close, Nova's thoughts twisted with dread. Because while Romang was ready to fight for her, she wasn't sure she was ready to face the war that would come when Chase found out. The day passed in a blur. Nova moved through the house like a ghost, her heart still trembling with the memory of Romang's vow. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the press of his hands, the weight of his gaze, the truth in his voice. But reality stalked her. By evening, she sat at the edge of her bed, wringing her hands, waiting for Chase to return. He had been gone for days, and a part of her had prayed he wouldn't come back at all. That prayer shattered with the sound of the front door slamming. Nova. His voice cut through the air. Low and sharp. Her stomach knotted. She rose to her feet just as Chase stepped into the room. He looked different, worn, his jaw tight, his eyes unreadable. For the first time in years, he really looked at her. "Something's changed," he said, narrowing his gaze. His nostrils flared, a wolf catching the scent of something that didn't. Along, his steps were slow, deliberate, predatory. "You smell different." Nova's blood ran cold. Romang's scent still clung to her, no matter how she had scrubbed, no matter how she had prayed. Wolves couldn't hide from each other. Not like this. Chase's eyes darkened. Who was it? She stumbled back, her throat tightening. Words refused to form. Who? His voice thundered now, shaking the walls. He grabbed her wrist, his grip, bruising. "Tell me, Nova." Before she could answer, a new voice filled the doorway. "Let her go." Romang. He stood there, broad and unyielding, his eyes a storm barely contained. His presence filled the room like a promise of violence. Chase froze, his grip slackening, shock flickering across his face. "You!" he spat. Nova's heart pounded as Roman stepped forward, every inch of him radiating fury and claim. "She's not yours anymore." She never was. The air between the men crackled, wolf to wolf, power against power. Nova stood caught between them, trembling, knowing this was the beginning of the end. Her secret was no longer a secret. Her choice was no longer something she could hide. And as Chase's growl built in his throat, and Romang's fists clenched at his sides, Nova realized her life would never return to what it had been. Not after last night. Not after this. The war for her had just begun. The sunlight crept through the blinds, spilling across Romang's sheets like an unwanted witness. Nova lay still, her heart pounding against her ribs, every nerve alive with memory. The scent of him lingered, dark cologne, smoke, and something purely Roman. Her body remembered everything, even though her mind screamed at her to forget. She blinked against the light, her throat dry, her lips sore from the way he'd kissed her like man-starved. She had crossed a line, burned a bridge, and no amount of wishing could unmake the night. Romang stirred beside her, one arm heavy across her waist as though even in sleep he refused to let her go. Nova tried to slip free, but his grip tightened, pulling her closer. "Don't," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Stay." Two simple words, but they struck her deeper than any confession. "Romang." Her voice broke, torn between guilt and need. "We shouldn't have," he cut her off, finally opening his eyes. The storm in his gaze made her breath falter. "Don't tell me last night was a mistake." His hand slid up her arm, deliberate, grounding. "You don't look at me like that if it's a mistake." Nova sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest, desperate for a barrier. "It was a mistake. You're Chase's brother. I'm his wife. This is wrong." Romang pushed up on one elbow, hair mussed, jaw shadowed with stubble, looking every bit like temptation personified. "He let you go the second he asked for an open marriage, Nova. You think I don't see what that did to you? He broke something sacred. I'm just the one who picked up the pieces." Her eyes burned. She hated the truth in his words. She hated that part of her wanted to crawl back into his arms, to drown in his certainty. "You can't just say things like that," she whispered. He leaned closer, voice low, dangerous in its promise. "I can. Because I mean them, and because you need to hear it. I'm not him, Nova. And I'm not letting you slip back into his shadow. The silence stretched, thick with everything unspoken. She could still feel his touch all over her skin, a phantom ache that wouldn't fade. Finally, she stood, gathering her clothes, her hands trembling. I can't do this. Romain watched her, eyes unreadable, but there was no panic in him. No regret, only a dangerous calm, like a man who already knew how the story would end. You'll be back, he said simply, like a vow. Because last night wasn't an accident. It was the truth. Nova froze in the doorway, her heart in her throat. She should have denied it, should have run. Instead, she left without a word, the echo of his certainty chasing her down the hall. For the first time since Chase had shattered her world, Nova didn't know if she wanted to resist.